you want to get some people in the back. You back there, and then you back there.
Oh, well, I was just thinking, like, I have theorized that boys are probably using and, like, use that envy was a horrible bad.
I'm sorry, I can't hear. Can you come forward?
That, envy was a horrible bad person. That's why that was the excuse that Boy was using in order to kill him, even though he was driven by the fact that he knew down that.
And that's, you know, why I read an interesting article. I don't know if I agree with it. I read an interesting article arguing that the point of the death penalty is not to get rid of murderers so much as the point of the death penalty is you don't get to commit revenge. The government does it for you. That way, you don't get into the cycle of you killed the person I love, so I kill you. So then the person who loved you kills me, so that then somebody who loved me kills them, and on and on and on and on and on. You get one death, and then you get one more death, and then you're done. Like I said, don't know if I agree with that, but that's kind of the idea. Is again, why the person is being killed can be as important as when and how.
Now, can you view the reason why Ed and Al tried to decide to not? Because I know in the series, Ed and Al feel very terrible for the fact they couldn't save Nina. Now, do you think them wanting to gain more knowledge and gaining better knowledge of alchemy and alchemy is another form of redemption for them?
I think it absolutely is, especially for Al. Al, I definitely remember in the manga, I think in the anime as well, Al explicitly says one of his main reasons for continuing to research alchemy is because he didn't know enough to save Nina. And if he knew more, maybe he could have. For Ed, I think it's more about saving Al. I think he does feel... I think for Ed, his failure to save Nina was breaking that hubris. You know, realizing that he has a lot in common with Tucker, and that he did do something truly wrong. For Al, I think it's more a matter of, I failed. How do I make sure I don't fail next time? So I think there's definitely, there are attempts to gain power and knowledge, because ultimately, you know, all that knowledge Ed gains over the course of the years, all that knowledge of power he gains, gone at the end, while Al retains his and goes on his quest. You know?
Ed still has the knowledge, but he just can't use it anymore. Really. Like, not let me physically use it anymore, I should say.
So, sure.
I don't know how familiar you are with the concept of virtual integration. Okay. Basically, virtual integration is this idea that one can gain sort of personal experience about another race through media such as television. The Cosby Show in the '80s is held as a reasonably classic example. You see this family, and you can watch it and you can think, oh, they're like my family. And so you can start looking at other people that way. I'm more interested in perhaps a meta example of this, where I know the author was discussing a certain Japanese ethnic group when making the Ishvalans.
Yes, the Ainu.
Yes. I don't know if you have any opinion on if Full Metal Alchemist has anything to do with virtual integration for those people or not.
Well, the Ainu, I may be wrong. I believe the Ainu are either gone or almost completely gone. But there is, and I think she is, influenced by another racial situation in Japan, which is there are Koreans living in Japan who have been living there for multiple generations. They are not citizens. They cannot vote. They are frequently the targets of discrimination. And they're about 3% of the population, which in Japan is an enormous minority. She may be trying to make a point about that. I do think, I do think we learn more than we think we do from the media we absorb. It's not, I don't think it's quite as simple as if you see a show that portrays a group positively, you'll automatically look on that group more positively.
Right.
I think it's more a matter of familiarity. Like I said earlier, familiarity is the enemy of bigotry. When something is familiar, when it starts to seem normal to you, you can no longer be bigoted against it, because bigotry is all about hatred of what isn't normal. And I think there, media can play a huge role in making something more familiar, in making it seem more acceptable, and in moving the boundaries of what's considered normal.
Yeah, did you hear about the new one that's coming out with the Secret Star of Milo's?
Yeah, I've heard a very little bit about that. I haven't been following it very closely. I am interested in it, but
It's supposed to hit theaters in the U.S. in early 2000 as well. That's
Cool.
according to the website there.
cool. Well, that gives me something to watch in a couple months. We are, I think, no, we've got about 5-10 minutes. If anybody has anything else.
I do.
Yes.
Kind of going back to the idea of virtual integration, at least, in the first series, I think part of the reason why it was much more focused on the installments was because, it just, being premiered in 2003, 2004, during that, very early post 9/11 era, and going into the Iraq War and all that, which, on a worldwide scale affected, everyone, and prejudice against a lot of the Middle East. And it's even kind of directly referenced, and at one point, I don't know if you remember or not, there's actually, almost a subliminal flash of, Twin Towers and all that. I don't know if that was really a question, but...
I think I'm a little skeptical of your premise that 9/11 was a huge event for the entire world. I think there's a tendency to overemphasize that in the U.S. simply because in the U.S. that was the first major terrorist attack we'd had in quite a long time. It was actually the first attack we had that originated outside the U.S.
Right.
Previous to 9/11, terrorist attacks in the U.S. were carried out by Americans.
Right.
And 9/11 was really the first time we had foreign terrorists. Most other countries have a lot more experience with that than we do. So I think to us it was this huge earth-shattering event, and it did have a big impact on the world indirectly because, the Iraq War and all that kind of stuff. But I don't think there was in most of the world a marked shift in attitudes towards people from the Middle East. I think those, except in the U.S. and our closest allies, I think those stayed pretty much the same. I mean, there was already, for example, a lot of prejudice against them in Europe, and that hasn't really changed much. I think that was mostly an American thing. So I do think, however, that, okay, I'm getting the 7-minute warning.
Yeah.
I do think that, however, that that the first series did focus more on the Ishbalans because, well, I can't really speak to it honestly because, like I told you, I was running a high fever for most of the first series. Sorry. Anybody else? All right. Well, you've been an excellent audience. Thank you. Oh wait, somebody has a question.
Which one's your favorite character? Do you think they're cute?
My favorite character is Ling, and no, not really. Alternatively, actually, no, I have a tie. My second favorite character is Mei. Tied for my favorite character is Mei, and she is cute in a she's adorable kind of a way.
Dude, I wanted May.
And then grown-up Mei is cute in the other way.
You want her to die?
I did.
But she's an Al's love interest, even though it's kind of creepy.
Okay, so you couldn't just wish her back to her home country and kill her?
Yeah, I just want her to go away.
It's like I started a war.
We will have to. Okay, so who is your favorite character?
This is called interactive.
Okay, Al is probably in my top 5, so okay. We can agree on Al. We can agree on Al being awesome.
Yes, Al.
Al is awesomely awesome. All right. Thank you, everyone. Like I said, you've been a great audience.